Hello, and welcome to the Zero to Hired podcast, the show that helps struggling job seekers find a career that's right for you. In every episode, we have one mission: to provide you with unique tips and strategies from leading industry experts that will get you in front of hiring managers. Enjoy the show.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Zero to Hired podcast. Our special guest this week is Dr. Derek Lee. Dr. Derek Lee is an experienced corporate health and wellness doctor with a demonstrated history of working in the telecoms industry, skilled in coaching, health promotion, eHealth programs, and employee wellness. Please help me welcome Dr. Derek Lee.
Good morning, John. Great to be here, and thanks for asking me to participate.
Yes, I'm very excited to have you on our episode of the Zero to Hired podcast. For those of you that do not know, Dr. Derek Lee is also my doctor, so in conversations and some of the treatments that I've had with Dr. Lee, I thought it would be great if he could share some of his wisdom and experience with all of you. And I know going through the interview process can be nerve-wracking. It could be really uncomfortable, and it creates a high level of stress. And the reason we brought in Dr. Lee today is to help you with managing that stress and understanding how you can get through that process with a reduced level of stress so you can be more successful in the interview. And this is why we brought Dr. Lee on, so I'm really excited to have you here. It's amazing because I really never thought that this would ever happen. So this is fantastic. I know you got a lot of valuable information that you're going to share with the Zero to Hired audience today.
Be happy to.
Yes. So let's get right into it. So how did you get into this field, or how did you get into this line of work?
Oh, really good question. And I guess the story is it's two events happening together, or two the kind of the planets aligning under two circumstances. The first was that in practice, if I was treating a particular condition and I had 10 different patients with a similar condition, 5 of them would be fairly straightforward to address. Maybe another 2 or 3 would be a little bit more difficult. Mm-hmm. But the final 2 or 20%, I couldn't really make an impact on. That really frustrated me until it came down to the point where I noticed just with repetition that these particular individuals, that particular condition was a result of something else going on, and that something else happened to be ongoing stress.
Okay.
So those individuals had the actual issue that they came in to see me for was just kind of an offshoot of what was actually occurring. And when we dove into what was really the burning cause of the problem, it was prolonged high stress levels. So once I started formulating a bit of a program that addresses that stress, that's when I started to see really, really good results in terms of those individuals getting much better, much quicker. Now, when I started, the second aligning of stars was when I started working for another company, Direct Energy. I was their health and wellness doctor for North America. And with them, they asked me to put together a bit of an employee stress program. And I used what I had gained in practice and rolled it out into a pilot project, which I could test. And of course, in corporate Canada, North America, wherever, they're always looking for metrics.
Yes.
So I was able to gather metrics, prove the actual benefit of the program, and I rolled that into a program that I use today.
Excellent. Well, this is what got us started, was this exact conversation. We were talking about how do you reduce your stress levels and what have you done? Working in a corporate environment, even just working and being out there as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, stress is going to impact everything that you do. So anything that we can do to manage that more effectively, or even take care of that, is going to not only make us feel better, or go out there, be more positive, but it's also going to allow us to be more productive. And that's a big part of it. And, we forget that stress is huge. But it's also a killer too, right? Like, there's some really, tell me,
Sure.
Tell us about it.
Well, even in a corporate environment, it seemed about 5 or 6 years ago, companies started to tighten, and at that time maybe an employee was working one particular job, but every year it seems like it's been an increase in workload. 1.5 jobs, 2 jobs, 2.5, 3 jobs. And with that prolonged stress, it really grinds us down. There's no doubt about it.
Mm.
And typically, the way stress works is that when we're faced with a stressor, it could be a morning commute,
Yeah.
it could be a presentation, whatever, it doesn't matter. Um, Automatically, we go into that fight or flight response. And what triggers that is the release of our stress hormones, specifically cortisol. So when cortisol releases, it gets us into that fight or flight mode. And after the stressor passes, cortisol comes back down to baseline. But what happens is that if you've been under long-term stress and high levels of stress, typically for years and even decades, cortisol doesn't come back down. It stays elevated. And the 3 results of high cortisol are basically insomnia, inability to get into deep sleep states, increased levels of global inflammation in your body. So that can result in increased aches and pains. It could be digestive inflammation. It could be skin, it could be respiratory, you name it.
Yeah.
And the third result of high cortisol is weight gain. So all these variables impact your health long term. That's why we see those trends.
So now I understand why I put on all this extra weight. It's all that stress that I've been taking on. So, candidates, as they go through the interview process, or even before they get into the room, what's some of the things that they can do to reduce some of that stress? So we'll talk about the before, the during, and the after, because
Sure.
even the after part, after you get through the interview, there's that little sigh of relief, but then there's that stress, waiting for that call, knowing how that process worked. So what can a candidate do before they actually get into the room for the interview?
Oh, excellent question. So it actually starts the night before. You have to almost make sure you have as good a night's sleep as possible. Because if you're tossing and turning, if you're more of a worry-wart type of personality, it's very, very difficult to shut the brain off before bed. So if we can kind of prep the night before, make sure you're prepared, as you probably suggest anyway. But if we can normalize your cortisol levels as much as possible the night before, that'll make a huge difference in terms of clearing your brain, reducing your agitation levels, just giving your brain a much more clear concept of what it wants to follow through with.
So is there a certain amount of time that they should? So there's different recommended sleep times.
hmm
Is there an ideal?
Well, research indicates between 6 to 8 hours of sleep per
Okay.
night, continuous sleep. And what's interesting is that there are 5 levels of sleep. The last one being rapid eye movement, the deepest sleep, and that's when we're dreaming. But throughout the night, we're actually going into sleep cycles maybe about 5 times, and they last about an hour to hour and a half. So you start with, just nodding off, then you'll go into second, third, and fourth. But the fourth level of sleep is where you kind of clear the day's events, clear your brain.
Mhm.
So if you don't spend a lot of time in that fourth level stage of sleep, then you're not going to be rested. You're going to be a little bit more stressed in the morning for sure. So if you can spend more time in there, that makes a big difference. And there are a couple of things you can do to get there the night before.
All right. So So I'm wondering, what else do I
Mhm.
need to do? Do I need to put down my device? Do I need to turn off the TV an hour or two before going to bed? So what are some of those things that we could do?
Absolutely. So melatonin release occurs when it's pitch black, and melatonin is a hormone that allows us to stay into deep sleep as long as possible. So throughout the day, when our eyes or even our eyelids are exposed to light, that's when we create melatonin. Now, if you're on devices very late into the evening, iPads or phones, television, then that's going to delay melatonin release later on into the evening when you're sleeping. So you're not releasing those hormones as late, so you're not getting the benefit. So try and definitely shut off your devices a little bit earlier. Maybe actually pick up a real book or magazine.
Wow.
What
Okay.
was that? Is that too radical?
What is that? A real book? No, I'm a big. My fans know this. I'm a big reader.
Okay.
Actually, I listen to a lot of audiobooks. So would
That's
that be
good.
the same?
That would be perfect.
Okay, good. So I like to listen to books.
Mhm.
I'm a big listener of books. So that's the night before. So what would they do the morning of?
Okay. Um, the morning of, well, I'd even like to go back. Sorry to backtrack.
Yeah.
In terms of, in addition to turning off your devices, if you can also try a little bit of magnesium,
Okay.
because magnesium helps tremendously with relaxing your muscles. So if you're a tense person, because when we're stressed, we tend to hold as well.
Mm-hmm.
We tend to hold it in our system. It's almost like we're getting ready to be, punched in the face. We're just holding all the time. So to reduce that kind of posture throughout the night, if you can get magnesium into your system, it makes a big difference. And I usually recommend maybe about 100, 125 milligrams of magnesium. And you should probably start this maybe a
Way
few
before.
days before
Yeah.
anyway. But before your interview, um,
Actually, I just wanted to add in.
Sorry.
So the magnesium piece has really helped me in terms of relax a little bit. I'm an extremely tight person, and you know this.
Mhm.
This is why I come to see Dr. Lee, because I need help. But the magnesium's really helped with just feeling more relaxed, and over time, it takes a little bit of time. It takes from days to weeks, depending on how bad it is.
Mhm.
But definitely, I've noticed a big difference. So for all of you that are listening, you might want to check that out. Magnesium is definitely, we can get it. It's pretty available everywhere.
Yeah, pretty well everywhere. And there is a bit of a protocol to build it up to a certain tolerance, and that because the maximum dosage of magnesium will give you the maximum benefit of stress reduction.
Okay. So you were talking about the morning of.
hmm So once you have a good night's sleep, and hopefully you've been trying to do that for a few nights in a row, because you just want to. It's probably not the best to start it right before. It's like cramming for an exam. So if you can get this sleep a little bit more consistent before you even get to the interview, that's much more helpful.
Mm.
But before the interview, you kind of have to go in with the concept in terms of stress reduction of that you're prepared. If you're not prepared and you're kind of winging it, then it's going to be a little bit more stressful.
Actually, yeah. So it's one of the things that we talk about. We talk about it in the book. We talk about it in our podcasts and blogs. Is preparation's key,
Mhm.
right? And that greatly reduces the stress. It doesn't get rid of it completely,
Absolutely.
but definitely reduces it to a point where it's manageable. And that's the goal, right?
I absolutely agree. And even for personal interviews that I do, I always try to, basically take my own advice. So I try to sleep as much as possible and become prepared, and reduce my cortisol for sure. And of course, what I do is I always go into interviews feeling I've already got it locked up.
Yeah.
But I'm sure you advise that all the time.
Yeah. Preparations we talk about. It's not
Mhm.
just the night before. It's what you do in the days, weeks, months before
Mhm.
that actually make you a successful candidate. Right? And our goal is always to make people successful, which is why we're interviewing the experts like yourself to give them those tips to get them to that point where they're going to succeed, and that's what we're looking for. So that's great. So we've got a nice little program on what to do before we get into the interview. What are some of the things that candidates can do while they're in the room
Mhm.
during the interview that could hopefully reduce some of that stress level during that conversation?
Right. So stress is all about that fight or flight response. So if you're in the savannah somewhere and you're being chased by a lion, um, you if you're prepared, for instance, if you've got your spear out and handy, you can fight. You don't want to get into the run aspect of it for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And like we spoke about before, if you're prepared and you basically make friends with a lion, then you can be able to reduce your stress levels.
Yeah. Well, I know one of the things that we talk about, and I found it's really important, is don't lie. Like you want to kick your stress level up, tell a lie during an interview, and then have, and it's horrible because one of the things I do when I interview is if I think you're lying, I'll ask you more questions and dig deeper into it, and then it just validates what I already know. Mm-hmm. So, don't lie in interviews because that's going to kick up your stress level. Because then you're going to have to, come up with other new things and make up other stuff to cover the lie that you told. So, don't do that. So, don't ever lie. Just be genuine, be real. And this is a big one, right?
And you have to be yourself because if you're going to put yourself off into an interview as an actor, you have to be true to yourself because that's what the interviewer is looking for as well.
Yeah.
And they can sense that every time.
You can almost, and this is I wasn't going to go here, but can you sense that? Like, can you sense this? You can sense stress in somebody else, but you can also sense genuineness as well, right?
Most definitely, because even when a patient walks into my office, the first thing I'm looking for in terms of assessing a person is, their movement, their body language. Are they really holding themselves? Are they nervous? And naturally, you want to put that person at ease, right? But if you're going into an interview and you're prepared and realize that that person's just right away looking for that one-on-one connection, right? And once you get that, your stress will reduce quite quickly from that point.
Yeah,
this is all about a relationship.
Yeah, and that's how you bring down your stress. You be genuine, you be real, you have that natural conversation, just like we're having now. Very natural. Yes, you got to be looking at us. We kind of look natural, but we're good. And this is how Dr. Lee and I normally speak, right? We're just pretty candid, very straightforward. So it's perfect. So we have great tips before, great tips during, and what about after? Because one of the things I know, walking out of a room, you kind of think you did well, you don't know if you did well, maybe you did well. So your stress level kicks back up again. So what are some of the suggestions that you would recommend for a candidate that's post-interview?
Good question. It's like writing a post-exam, and you're not sure if you did well, you're not sure if you aced it, and you're kind of not looking forward to the results, but you are. And so what I always suggest is that it's in terms of it's that specific event, you have no control over it. So if you have no control of it, you just move on to the next interview or into the next process, because once you get back, nothing's going to increase your stress levels as much as self-doubt, second guessing, but you cannot control what the interviewer is going to do.
Absolutely. Yeah, if we were mind readers and we hopped into the minds of other people, and and then we know exactly what's going on, unless you have that psychic ability. I'm going to say not everybody can do that. So just control the things that you have control over, and that's you. And if you're doing that, then your stress level will be contained within you.
Absolutely.
And sometimes the stars don't align, and some people don't get various roles, but from what I've seen in a lot of circumstances, it's a blessing. Because it opens them up for other opportunities that end up being better for them. Yeah,
and I always believe things happen for a reason.
Yeah.
So if that particular job doesn't work out, then there's a reason for it.
Yeah. And something else, and something typically better, and
doors open.
Doors open. Yeah, absolutely. So you have a program online that people can follow if they. So we talked about some methods and strategies for reducing stress. You also have a program online around around stress management. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. Like I mentioned before, the reason I developed the program on stress was to really help my patients, because that was often the primary driver in their disease state. So if you can manage their stress levels, you can make a huge impact on their life. So a lot of the stress experts will tell you to handle stress in terms of by maybe doing two major actions, either accepting the stress or getting away from it. But the top three stressors are always going to be family, finances, and work. In reality, you can't change any of those very quickly, if at all. So
sometimes you don't want them to change quickly.
So when I was working for corporate, with respect to corporate health and wellness programs, instead of worrying about the environment, I basically took the other route and looked at the internal environment, because you can't change external stress. You can just change how you manage it internally. So my whole program is about reducing cortisol quickly. And most people will see results in about 24 to 48 hours, which is huge for them, because oftentimes if you come in and you're super agitated and you want results quickly. And it's all natural, of course. And it's all about cortisol reduction. Cortisol reduction, once you do that, you increase your ability to sleep, so you reduce your insomnia very quickly. You reduce your inflammation state, so aches or pains, digestive, whatever inflammation you have reduces. And that, in a nutshell, is the program.
Yeah. Actually, and I've gone through the program. Both my wife and myself have gone through the program, and I saw her stress level just drop.
Mm-hmm.
And to the point, not that, to a point where it was just like, wow, like you felt it within 2 days. It's like, why was I worried? Not that I'm like crazy happy about stuff, but I'm in a state that's neutral. And actually, that's
Exactly.
and that to me, and from what I understand, is a much healthier state to be
Mm-hmm.
than a state of excitement or a state of depression. Just neutral.
Yep.
So,
and of course, when my patients see the before and after within a period of so short a period of time, and it's not as if you're getting hit over the head with results. It's a very subtle, and when they see the pre and post stress effects of the program, it's pretty phenomenal.
Yeah.
They love it, right?
Yeah. So where can the audience get more information?
For more information, they can just go to my website at drdereklee.com and just browse around.
Yeah, actually, so what I will do and will include in the show notes is a link to Dr. Lee's website. I'll also include a link to your LinkedIn.
Sure.
Because we're big on LinkedIn, because this is the place where you need to go. It's almost like a stress just to go through that, but we'll definitely share that. So is there any special events or anything that you have coming up?
Well, with respect to special events, I usually do quite a bit of corporate talks with different companies.
Mm-hmm.
So if anyone's interested in perhaps asking about my availability for that, I'll be happy to respond.
Excellent. Yes, and I've seen Dr. Lee speak at some of our corporate events, and promise not to disappoint. It's fantastic talks, just like we're having today, a great talk where it's just very natural and very genuine. So, Dr. Lee, thank you for your time today. Thank you for being on the Zero to Hired podcast. I know our audience, I've gained immensely from working with you and improving my health and so many other areas outside of stress. So I just wanted to say thank you for taking the time this morning to meet with us and to share your insights and your knowledge and experience with our group.
More than happy to participate, John. Anytime.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. That is it. That is our episode for the Zero to Hired podcast. Just remember, you can receive and download your free resume template on our website at www.zerotohired.com. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll catch up with you next time.
Thank you for listening to the Zero to Hired podcast. Make sure you check out our website, www.zerotohired.com, and download your free resume template that's proven to get results, complete with examples and guidelines. Make sure you tune in as we interview leading industry experts who provide tips and strategies to help you get the career that's right for you.